Superman saved the world, but in the 1950s, he was doing something far more dangerous. He was teaching children that nuclear energy was normal, that it was safe if it was in the right hands. The Flash wasn't fighting villains, he was fighting an ideology. And the Fantastic Four were trying to win the space race, even when America was already losing it in real life. And this isn't a conspiracy theory. This is the official history of American comic books. Comics that became weapons of the Cold War. The real question is, who was actually writing these stories, and why?
After World War II, the world didn't become safer. It became more terrifying. The United States and the Soviet Union, two systems, two visions of the future, and one weapon that could destroy everything in just a few minutes. People could feel it. In America, bomb shelters were being built. Children were taught in schools how to hide under their desks during a nuclear attack. Imagine this. In the morning, you're told the world could end, and in the evening, you're reading a comic where a hero controls the chaos. That contrast wasn't accidental. The government didn't just need weapons, it needed to calm fear, and comic books were perfect for that. A symbol of America, a hero without fear, Superman. But in the beginning, comic books weren't trusted. They were seen as strange, childish, even dangerous. Many adults simply couldn't understand how these colorful stories could affect the real world. And that's exactly why everything changed in the 1950s. Superman stopped being just a hero. He became a messenger of ideas. In the comics, he talked about nuclear energy calmly, confidently, as something inevitable and controllable. He didn't scare people, he reassured them. The message was subtle. The atom is dangerous, but only in the wrong hands. In the right ones, it becomes the future. Comic book creators later admitted in interviews their stories had to feel real because that's how the reader starts to believe. And that's exactly why comic books fit so easily into the Cold War. The government was betting on one simple idea. If a hero children trust says everything is under control, then the country must be under control too. But the older generation remained skeptical. Psychologists of that era claimed that children who read comics performed worse in school, were more suggestible, and reacted more to images than to facts. The irony is, that's exactly what made comics the perfect tool of influence, because the heroes of that era weren't fantasy. They were interpretations of their time, its fears, its hopes, and its ideology.
Now, the Flash, the fastest man alive. But in Cold War-era comics, he wasn't fast by accident. His speed was a metaphor. Communism in American comics almost never had a face. It was a system, slow, heavy, impersonal. And the Flash was the opposite, bright, free, individual. In one of the early issues, the Flash chases a criminal known as the Turtle. And that name is not a coincidence. The Turtle is slow. He avoids direct confrontation. He escapes by boat. While the Flash races across land, the criminal disappears over water, relying not on speed, but on inertia and obstacles. And once again, it's a metaphor. A slow system always tries to win not with speed, but with rules, restrictions, and workarounds. But the Flash still catches him, because the idea of freedom in these stories is always faster than the system. He makes his own decisions. He moves faster than the rules, faster than bureaucracy, faster than control. The creators understood that direct slogans don't work, so they worked through images, through feeling. If the hero wins, then the idea he represents wins too. The Flash didn't argue with communism, he simply outran it.
April 12, 1961. One man changed the course of history. Yuri Gagarin became the first human in space. For the Soviet Union, it was a triumph. For the United States, it was humiliation. America didn't lose a war, it lost a symbol, and the response had to be immediate. But rockets don't move faster than comic books. In the early 1960s, the Fantastic Four appeared. Not soldiers, not spies, but scientists. People who go to space not by government order, but driven by curiosity and faith in progress. That distinction was crucial. Soviet propaganda said space is a victory of the system. American comics replied, space is the achievement of the individual. Their flight was a mistake, an unauthorized experiment, but that mistake is what made them heroes. The message was simple. Yes, we lost the first launch, but we're catching up, because in a free society, breakthroughs are born not in offices, but in minds. The Fantastic Four weren't about monsters. They were about the fear of falling behind forever, and about the hope that the future could still be reclaimed.
In the 1950s and 60s, America wasn't afraid of monsters. It was afraid of a button, a nuclear one. After Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the atom stopped being science fiction. It became an everyday nightmare. But panic is a bad ally of power. So the government made a decision. If fear can't be removed, it has to be rewritten. That's how the idea of the peaceful atom appeared in comic books, and its main face became Superman. In some issues, he literally explains to children that nuclear energy isn't evil if it's in the right hands. Superman isn't afraid of radiation. He controls it. And that was a subtle move, because Superman isn't American. He's an immigrant, an alien, an outsider who chose America. The message was instantly clear. If even a force capable of destroying the world can be used for good, then the atom can be the right kind too. But the older generation didn't believe it. Scientists and psychologists raised the alarm. They claimed that children who read comic books performed worse in school, had weaker concentration, and were more easily influenced. And, in a way, they were right, because comic books really did teach. The only question was, what exactly?
The most interesting part is this. Comic books were hated not only in the Soviet Union. In the United States itself, a real war was waged against them. In 1954, public hearings were held. Comic books were accused of violence, degeneration, and the moral corruption of children. Parents burned magazines. Teachers demanded bans. Politicians said, "This is more dangerous than radio." And here's the paradox. At the very moment when society saw comic books as a threat, the government had already realized something else. They were the perfect tool. Because if you can influence a child through images, you don't need a lecture, you need a story. Comic book creators later admitted in interviews, "We made our heroes resemble real people of their time, their fears, their dreams, their enemies." That's why, during the Cold War, superheroes didn't just fight, they interpreted an era.
Every hero was an answer to a question no one wanted to ask out loud. Superman, the fear of nuclear power. The Flash, the fear of progress moving so fast it can't be stopped. The Fantastic Four, the fear of losing the future. Comic books didn't explain politics, they made it feel real. And that's why they survived the Cold War, censorship, and criticism from scholars. Because as long as the world keeps changing, heroes will always have someone to save, and someone to save us from.